Right. Ha. Tu. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's do
So we're going
this.
back now.
Boom, 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 boom. Hello.
Hello,
Woo.
we're here.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Home Assistant release party for 2023.6. It's a crazy big release, which like kind of the old school way with like all over the place, really great new features. We're we're gonna talk about today all the new features. Obviously, we're gonna look a little back on voice as well because that was like the big thing last month, and a lot has happened also since then. All in all, it's gonna be a cool release. It should be almost there publishing. We had some beginning of actions issues. Anyway, let's just start with like adding everybody to the stream. Hi, Roman.
Hey,
Hey,
Yeah, great you could join us. Who are we today? First, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Paulus Schoutse. I'm the founder of Home Assistant.
I'm Mike DeGatano. I work primarily on supervisor.
I am.
my name's Raman. I am the code owner for a couple of integrations, but the one that I work on the most is Z-Wave.js.
And I am Keith. I am the new guy here. I joined Nabukasa last month, and I will be helping Jesse with ESP Home as well as working on various hardware initiatives.
Yes, awesome. So yeah, we'll talk with more Keith about like what he's gonna do. But yeah, he's a second person working full time on ESP Home now, which is super exciting because ESP Home is of course like the little sibling for the microcontrollers that, to make cool stuff that works with your smart home that you fully control yourself, can keep up to date, and build cool stuff. And so that's going to move even faster than it did before. Just for the people watching at home who are thinking, where's Frank? Frank didn't feel well. So he is watching probably, but he did not join the stream today. So he luckily was able to. He did write the release notes, so all the release notes are Frank's words, and so we're going to discuss his notes today and explain kind of the thoughts behind it. There's a really cool features all over the place. So I think without further ado, let's get started. Actually, I'm just gonna like share my first step, which is like the build is really almost done. Basically the only thing left is to publish the version file, so hopefully we'll keep an eye on this, but in like, I don't know, a couple of minutes usually this is done, although it has been on this page for a little bit. Oh, awkward. All right, some things are breaking, don't worry about it, it will work out. Behind the scenes somebody will maybe fix it. All right. Let's see. Let me just change the tab a little bit. Good. Yeah. Home Assistant release 2023.6. What I would, I think the first thing we're just going to jump in, Mike, right away, which is, I think, one of the most requested features in like the supervisor's history. And now we've solved this, of course, another thing will be the most requested. Network storage. What can you tell us?
Yeah, there's not a lot of supervisor things that make the front page, but I guess this is definitely one of them. So I mean, for a long time, one of the big gaps of supervisor was your inability to easily use network storage. I mean, lots of Home Assistant users have NASs and shares throughout their house, and it was difficult to actually use them. Probably one of the biggest reasons to still use like a supervised install over an operating system or container, because you could do that yourself. Now it is available. It's right in the UI. You can use it for three purposes. You can mount your media share to easily access, like say, your camera clips, screenshots, whatever you need. or also vice versa. Like if you use the camera.take snapshot or camera.record feature in Home Assistant, you can send those back, have them all in one place. Or playlists, whatever you use your media for. The other one is backups. So you can now mount a network share as backup type, and you can then make backups that go to your NAS. The first one you make this way will become the default backup share. So from then on, anytime you make a backup, it's going to go to your backup network storage, the one that you marked as default. You could change the default later. And also when you make a one-off backup, you can choose to send it to a different location if you want. The final one is share. I mean, so share is kind of a bit more technical behind the scenes, but the share folder is primarily used for sharing information between Home Assistant and add-ons. And you can make a mount that then lives in that folder, so other things can get it. It's not a clear and obvious use case for that one, but I'm sure people will find one.
Yeah, no, this is super excited, right? I think that, with Home Assistant OS, which is the majority of our users being used, like I think 70%, we always like with Home Assistant OS is we take control of the operating system. We don't have to worry about it. We make sure we provide updates to make sure it's secure, make sure it's well configured. It like has the right tweaks for like things like threat and matter. And it also means that you cannot change the host. You need to go, like, we need to make these features available. And so, yeah, we've made it available. It's now there. I'm going to show a quick demo. This is Home Assistant. So in the config, you go to System, you go to Storage. Now here you can see just the disk metrics. This is the storage in my yellow. It also shows you what the lifetime is of the eMMC storage right there. And right here, you see your network storage. So I already added one called Demo. I'm just going to click on Add. So here's the options that Mike just explained, backup, media, and share. Yeah, you can you pick your target. You can give it the share name, and then you can log in. Just as an example, this is the demo one. This is media. You can, once you've configured it, of course, you can cancel, delete it. And so the way it will be available is that you go to media, you go to local media, which this name could probably use some little tweaking. There you can now see demo. And what is really cool is because demo just integrates with the local media part of the way Home Assistant works. You can actually, if you have write access, you can add more stuff to this. You can actually add more files to your media. Now you can just open it. For example, our Audience Choice Award, or a cool little microphone I've been hacking on. And of course, this is now I'm saying target the browser, but you can actually target anything with a screen that you have that can output, for example, images, or if you have music in here, you can play it on like a Sonos speaker or a Cast speaker, that kind of stuff. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to act like it's local media. So, I mean, if you have like a separate system for cameras or something like that, it's now really easy to like make notifications from Home Assistant that pop up.
Yeah,
clips and stuff from that.
So here's a question from Jaap. What happens when the backup folder is offline?
Yeah, so the way that works, so for all of them, if the folder is offline, I mean, it depends on the point at which it goes offline. So when Home Assistant starts up, if it is offline, it's going to fail to connect. And what will happen then is it's going to pop a repair for you that tells you we failed to connect. And the folder itself is going to become read-only. So if you try and use it, you'll end up seeing a lot of errors. Like if you try to write anything to it, it'll make errors. If you try and read something from it, you're obviously just not going to find it. For backups in particular, what'll happen is the default, it'll fall back on local. Backups won't actually error. It'll still let you make a backup. It's just going to go back to, like, it's going to treat the local one that's on this machine as the default until that one comes online. If the share goes offline while Home Assistant is up and running, this isn't at startup anymore, we don't have any way to detect that right now. That's still something that's going to come. For now, what's going to happen is you're going to get timeout errors, right? It's going to try and write to it, and because it thinks it's there, and it'll time out eventually. And it shouldn't take that long, but yeah, that's something we can work on in the future. But for now, it'll time out if it goes offline while Home Assistant's up and running.
Awesome. Piet Hein has a question. Can I use the pictures from a media share in an automation? Yes, you can. I'll show that. Because it's in the media browser, anything you do in an automation, let's say create a new automation, add action. If you go to like play media, for example, and you have a media player that can actually, all my stuff is offline.
You can send a notification, I guess.
Well, this my camera, I can send audio to it, but like, yeah, you can pick local media demo. I don't have any audio in here. So if I would have audio in here, I would be able to pick it and it will come from this share. Yeah, I always unplug all my devices. I'm done testing. So yeah, you can use it in any automation. Anything that accepts a media source ID, it will work. You can also use the path directly, right, Mike?
Yeah. I mean, the path is just going to be like for the media. It's just going to be slash media slash the name of your share slash the file. Although I guess for notifications or things that use the media directory, it's going to be, what is it like? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Honestly, the media source URLs are like media source : / Yeah. You use the media browser, then like it's the best way to go. All right. Are there any other questions about network storage?
Share usage, by the way, if you do that one, it's the same thing. So it'd be /share / the name of your mount / whatever you're looking for.
I just have a funny story about network storage, but we could do the question first.
Oh no, you'll go first, Rahman.
Well, I was just going to say that I know the piece that I actually ended up trying to do was very little of what ended up getting released, but Pascal had mentioned, like we were looking for somebody to work on the network mount thing. All you need to know is Python. So I gave it a shot. Turns out that's not the case. You need to know a lot more than just Python. And I got stuck. And Mike graciously took over my PR and carried it over the finish line. So I guess it's not that funny, but I just wanted to say props and thanks.
Yeah, it turned out that it wasn't UDisks at all. UDisks proved useful. I was totally wrong about that. Stefan actually figured it out. Stefan figured out how to call like system demount over dbus, which is really all we needed.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to take the wrong path to get to the right one. So.
Yeah.
All right, I have two more questions here. Brandon is asking, could Home Assistant automatically retry if it fails during startup?
So it could. There is some amount of retry. I can't remember off the top of my head what I did there. There is some amount of retry. And there is also an API for reloading it. Yeah, so the repair that we pop, I guess my thinking was kind of, if it's down, either your network or your computer is probably down. So, we could retry a couple times. I don't think we retry indefinitely. We don't retry indefinitely. I kind of just counted on the fact that the user would get their system back online, and then there's a reload option in the repair, and they would click it. We certainly could keep trying on an interval, though, if it helped. This is only going to happen if you're only going to see the repair, and it's only going to behave nicely right now, I guess, if it is down when the system starts up, or I guess when supervisor starts up. What we definitely need to do is detect when it has gone down while during live execution, so we can help you there, because that's going to be most of the time.
Cool. I see. Here. So one of the use cases that Sai is saying that Home Assistant boots up super fast and his NAS is super slow, and so then his NAS storage won't be up after power loss.
Oh, okay. I'll check that. I think I don't think it is like an immediate failure. I think it will hold until like there's a timeout. Like it's going to look for it and it's going to wait a certain amount of time and then it's going to give up. I don't know what that time is off the top of my head. But yeah, that makes sense.
All right, that's good. Some interactive Q&A. So that will be in the next release, maybe. No, supervisor release. Last thing, I guess, from Nick. Can you save your camera stream to the share? You totally can. Yeah,
Yeah.
it all depends on if you can control where the like. It depends on how you're storing, like what kind of command is being used to write it to disk, and if it allows sending in a path. But if that's the case, you can totally send in like it can go to any backup place or any network path.
Yeah, it's just going to be mounted to a folder within /media. So anything, if you want to do like camera.snapshot or camera.record, like you just put in the path /media.
Oh yeah.
Mount is / the name of the file, right? So you can definitely do that.
All right. Anything else, Mike, we should know, or Roman, about network shares?
Try it out. I hope
Yes.
it works well for everyone.
Yeah, no, I hope this is. I think the offsite backups, right? Getting backups off your hard drive that runs Home Assistant, I think would be like a big use case for me. That's just like it used to be like some add-ons you would upload it to Google, like a Google backup add-on and stuff, and now it just goes to my NAS. Then that's great.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I'm definitely gonna be using it for backups.
No, that's definitely really cool. I mean, it would yeah, so like you get them off, you have them available. Yeah, it'd be cool if and something to think about, I guess, for the future. It'd be cool if like onboarding let you select it, so you didn't have to go through that to then remount.
Oh yeah. All right. Next up. Oh, I went too fast. The next thing is that we've done a little UX work again. Like we've been doing a little UX tweaks. Like every release, we try to like make something better, work on something. Of course, we've been working since last November when we announced at the State of the Open Home. We had we shared a mock-up of kind of like our target goal where we kind of want to iterate towards to. And every release, we're trying to pick something up from that mock-up and like implement it, make it better. And so there's been two things actually this release that are really big on the UX and on the way things are organized. The first thing is integrations, dashboards, and pages. Boom, 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 boom. It now looks like this. And actually, I'm just gonna throw in my Home Assistant instance. So this is my my instance here in my office. As you can see, it is greatly cleaned up. All the cards are now a similar height. It makes it very easy to scan. There's only now a single card per integration. So where it used to be that there's different types of ways things are integrated, right? So you have a config entry that talks to a Philips Hue hub, and then it includes all Philips Hue devices at once. Or you have ESP Home, where each device individually has its own authentication and a host. And so you might have like one Philips Hue config entry, but you might have like 20 ESP Home config entries. And to get all that like together in one page, we used to have these like tiny cards. It would have like 3 different ESP Home entries visible. You would have to scroll to pick your favorite one. It was like pretty annoying, especially on mobile, where like it could just become like a long list. So we've been reworking this, and this is what we came up with. So it still looks very familiar to what you're used to. The one thing that the way it works now is that each integration will have its own page. And we also have for each integration, still we have a shortcut to basically the one thing why you might actually go to this integration, right? So you can see, for example, for Elgato, I have one Elgato light. I would click on it. It will actually go directly to that device page. We call this like the shortcut. If you look at like HomeKit Bridge, it has 4 services. I click on it. It will actually show me all the different 4 the services that are belonging to this integration. But this is only if you click the shortcut. If you click on the cog above it, you go to this page. And this page is the new integration page. So everything around ESP Home will be on this page. So on the left is more generic integration. So I want to see all devices or all entities, links to documentation, known issues, and then enable debug logging. And a lot of these options used to be all crammed into that small, tiny overflow menu. Then on the right, these are each different config entries. And this is still the same old options: reload, rename, download diagnostics, delete. These kind of things are all here. If you want to add a new one, you click here and you can actually jump directly into the config flow. So we've tried but the shortcuts to really make the most common action to still be there, while we're also making it that, when you want more information, dive in deeper, you can actually see that on this page. Now, let me open Apple TV. So I've unplugged my HomePod Mini, and as you can see, this needs attention. Where it used to be that we would have this whole message, like not found, was completely printed in the integrations overview, making all the cards like different UI. This is really, a cleanup now. You can actually see, oh, this is an error, and here there's no entries. And so I could add another Apple TV if I wanted here. And, last but not least, you can see we highlight now when things are based on the cloud. We used to have these small badges here. They are now more apparent. And so this is really to help you see, like, hey, you are using an integration that relies on the cloud. If your internet goes down, or if you're sharing information with it that is like in someone else's hands right now, we also will have it over here. The last thing that I don't have custom integrations on this one, but I will just quickly go to the screenshot of in the release notes. You can see for hacks, it will now be the custom integration badge will also live on top of the logo. So that way you can see, everything. Somebody wants to show Zigbee. It actually doesn't look that bad because the Zigbee is one config entry. So it's still just, this page is actually very bare bones. You still would have to click on the 6 devices to go there. The Zigbee panel right now lives here. And then you go to the Zigbee panel as we had before, just like we have this for Matter and Thread. All right, are there any questions? I see, love this.
I love this too. I'll just say it. If nothing else, because I've got about 50 ESP home devices, so that list would get long. Lots of scrolling on mobile, so this is much cleaner.
Good, yeah. I think this is like the way these shortcuts work. If you have devices, we're going to link to devices. If you have entities, we're going to link to entities. And if there's no entities, we're going to link to config entries. So, which the config entry really is just linking to that page again, where we show all your config entries. But that way, each card has its the equal height, which makes it easy to scan and predict, like to find a new logo. So right now, it's like super fast. Like I need to know something about like Matter, boom, I clone Matter, and I'm right there. All right. So that's the new integrations dashboard. We also, because we can now link to the integrations dashboard, we've added a new My Link. And so that should be able to allow you to also link to that. Hopefully, by the way, Keith, I want to add this to the ESP Home dashboard, so that from the ESP Home dashboard, you can link back to the ESP Home page in Home Assistant to see the devices that you're editing, and like kind of as a quick shortcut.
That'll be great.
All right. Boom.
Yes, I see a comment, Johnny. Yes, 50 ESP home devices, 50. And a couple of them are WLED, but yeah, it's a lot.
Why don't we pivot to ESP Home, Keith? What's the what would you say is like a breakdown of these 50 devices?
lights, sensors, thermostats, switches. That kind of sums it up as just sort of the common things, I guess you'd say. But
Well, so the thermostats is the ones that you made yourself, right? As in, like, that's the project you've shared with the community the most, I would say, or
yeah, it's so I've got a couple of them sitting right here as we're talking about it. Yeah, I did these. I've done custom PCBs for just about all of my projects. In fact, I think all of them really. But yeah, this was the thermostat board that I made last year. Well, one of them anyway. I did a couple different sizes.
wait, I'm gonna make you bigger.
What's that? Oh yeah,
Enhance.
Yeah. So this is the climate and sprinkler controller board. I did this about a year. It's been kind of a pet project over the last couple of years, but for controlling your thermostat or your sprinklers, or pretty much anything that a Triac can switch, or there's relays on it as well. I've got a bunch of different sensors under here for just because they're tiny and why not. But yeah, I've done a lot of different hardware projects, and almost all of them are on my GitHub, and the ones that aren't will be as soon as I get around to writing them out. But I've done board for a neon light power supply. I've got some string lights outside. I hacked those. I've just done a ton of little projects with this, and I love it. It's a fantastic platform. And the thing that I think is especially great is how easy it is to integrate any number of things with Home Assistant. I think that's where it really, really shines.
I think it would be good to note that, like, you're showing super advanced stuff with ESP Home for the people that are not fully familiar with ESP Home. Because it can do easy things too, right? You can, like,
oh yeah, you can.
I'm just gonna quickly share my screen for the people that like the idea of ESP Home, just like the very basic, just a step back. I think you can program these little microcontrollers just using like a bit of YAML. So you can just say, hey, I'm connecting this little pin, this little sensor to the board. It's on pin D2. You compile it, like you hit like install, it will make software for you, install it on the microcontroller. The microcontroller connects to your Wi-Fi. It asks, do you want to add it to Home Assistant? You click yes, and it will send that data to Home Assistant, encrypted, local, and under your control. Like, it's really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a real common like a D1 Mini or D1 Mini clone. This has an ESP8266, which is kind of the original Espressif chip. A lot of things we target now are based on the ESP32 or one of the derivatives. They have Bluetooth support, which is really critical, I would argue, and quite common. You can use them, as Paulus mentioned, the Bluetooth proxy. So you can talk to Bluetooth things. You can extend the range of them if Bluetooth is usually limited to 30 or 50 feet or so. So it doesn't go particularly far, but with the proxies, which you can install on any ESP32 chip, you can propagate those messages and extend the reach, which is really powerful. They're just really useful, and in particular, all you really need is a USB cable. This has a USB micro port on it. Focus. There we go.
Yeah.
And so you just plug this into your PC or Mac, whatever you're using, and you can use Chrome and Web Serial to put the software on there. So as Paula said, you build a YAML configuration. We'll even give you a kind of a blank one. You can populate it with things like lights or switches or sensors. There's a whole range of things on the ESP Home site that describe those, and then that data will then get funneled back into Home Assistant. It's pretty remarkable, honestly. If you've never messed around with this stuff before, it's a lot easier to get started with than you might think. I will say that you don't really need to worry about blowing things up. It's easy to tinker with. WLED is also a great one to tinker with if you're really into twinkling lights and things. It's also cool. So take a look at it if you've never seen it or played around with it before. It's really, really powerful, and it will introduce you to your new addiction.
I think so. You mentioned the Bluetooth proxies, and that's like another thing that I think a lot of people we need to do better, and like telling the people the cool stuff we can do. But like any ESP32, like whatever, like this, that's why we just keep showing like microcontrollers on the screen. You can buy like a $5 device, install it with a Bluetooth proxy from your browser, and then all of a sudden start sending all this Bluetooth information over. And one of the cool things that was released last month or the month before is this device.
The Shelly.
Yeah, the Shelly Blue Button 1. And so it's just a Bluetooth button. You can hold it next. I'm going to hold it next to the microphone. You press it, it has a beep. But what is very cool is that it works with BT Home, which is an open standard that we developed, and which Shelly now has adopted for their device. So this device, if you have Bluetooth proxies or you use Bluetooth from your Raspberry Pi in Home Assistant, it works out of the box. Like, this is just really cool because this is just a mass market device that is like being sold all over the world, and it just works with Home Assistant out of the box.
Yes. And it's also, I'll add too, it's very inexpensive. You can buy a 5 or 10 pack of these things on Amazon, and it's, $10-$20. It's really not a lot of money to get into something that's really expands your options quite a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really nice complement to ESP Home in general.
One thing I'm curious about, Keith, do you know any good resources to learn about PCB design? Because I think the biggest problem I have with ESP Home is just that all of my devices look like crap, and they are just strung together and not very.
Not like nice little PCBs like that.
I thought that was a feature. Like,
the little rat's nested wires. Yeah, honestly, so I have a background with some of this stuff. I've been doing electronics more or less as a hobby in some form or another since I was a wee lad. So for me, it was just sort of, I just sort of had this. So I guess it's difficult for me to answer that question. The one thing I would advise is, honestly, there's a ton of videos on this stuff on YouTube. I use an application called KiCad, which is also open source and free. So, and it's also multi-platform. It will run on anything. So Windows, Mac OS, Linux, pick what you want. But it's a phenomenal tool, and it just keeps getting better and better with that. I think they're up to release 7 now. But I've all of the boards that I was showing you here, I've used KiCad to draw those up. There are a ton of videos on YouTube. Honestly, go to YouTube, search KiCad, getting started, things of that nature. They'll walk you through the very high level. The process is draw the electrical schematic. So if you're not familiar with drawing a schematic, you might need to take a little time just to understand how that works. But there's a symbol for every component. You drop it on the sheet, and then you just connect the wires with lines. And then after you've drawn that, you draw the PCB, you draw the circuit board, and then the circuit board and the schematic are linked. So it sort of forces you to draw on the board what you've drawn on the schematic. And there's also tooling to do like error checking and correction to make sure you don't have traces crossing where they shouldn't be. There's a lot of capability. So it's really not as difficult as you might think. And YouTube, and the internet in general, is a great resource for getting started. So I wish I could be more specific, but
I'm in CLO's camp, like glue gun or like
3D printing.
Exactly. No, so I think Oh yeah.
I was just going to say. So the second question is, do you take requests, Keith?
I have done one request. I did a friend of mine, actually my friend Brad, who introduced me to Home Assistant years ago, asked me to do a relay board. He wanted to control his swimming pool and hot tub stuff, the cover control, as well as heating the water and monitoring some things. He's got some temperature sensors and whatnot. So he asked me to do a board with a bunch of relays and IO pins on it. So I did that. It took like an evening. But that's the only custom request that I've done.
Understood. Yeah. Had to ask.
Yeah, but so one of the things that the ESP Home, what we've been using ESP Home for, is of course voice. So it's Year of the Voice with Home Assistant. We're doing a lot of cool stuff. We had Chapter 2 released last month, and as part of Chapter 2, we added speech to text and text to speech services. We have cloud options. We have local options with Whisper and Piper. And to try it out, like, we made it possible to really easily make voice assistants with Home Assistant. We even added, like, this is device by M5 Stack. It's like the Atom Echo development kit, this tiny little box that is, there you go. It has a microphone, a speaker, and a button. And so Home Assistant, we currently don't do wake words, so you have to press the button, you can speak to it, and it will actually execute your command and speak the response to it. These things, they were actually sold out, but we got in touch with M5 Stack, and they've produced a bunch more. So if you haven't got your hands on it and you want to try it out, definitely do it. So we have made this on the M5 Stack website. I will actually post it in the chat as well. These are really cool $13.50 boxes to try out Home Assistant Year of the Voice. And it's all powered by ESP Home. So you can actually, we have a really great tutorial on the Home Assistant website that will walks you through the steps to just use your browser to install ESP Home on this box. And boom, you got your own voice assistant going. So it's really cool. Definitely try it out. I see like a bunch of people commenting, already ordered. That's good. That's good. No, it's really cool. I mean, I wouldn't say this is the best thing to have like as a voice assistant in your house because it's tiny, these kind of things. But it's really cool. And there's some people that have been upgrading actually existing old school hardware. I myself also work on a project, but there were some really cool videos shared. I'm just gonna. I don't know if I can. Can I put a YouTube in here? I don't know.
Oh, one way to find out.
That's one way to find out. I'm gonna put a.
Yeah, the Atom Echo is a great way to get started with it, though. It's a really, really simple way to kind of jump in and try out the waters, and then always go from there.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna see if this is gonna work. This is JLo. He's also been in the chat. He has been building this. He's been upgrading like a 70s walkie-talkie to use ESP Home and like to connect to Home Assistant. I'm just trying to see if I can get it bigger. I'll just do like this.
Allume la cuisine.
Cuisine allumée.
Allume la machine à café.
Machine à café allumée.
Vous êtes en communication avec assistant de l'aide.
Turn off the living room lights.
Turned off light.
Close the shades.
Closed.
Oh. It's so cool. Like, I mean, I pretty much love everything about this project, right? I love that it's like an old device that is repurposed. I love that like it's super fast. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, but every time he releases the button, it's done, right? Like those shades, they were going down like the moment he let go. But then the other thing that was really cool is the button to change the voice assistant, right? So he presses that button and then you can switch between French and between English. So that's it's really cool. This is JLo has shared all his configuration also on GitHub. So I'm sharing the walkie-talkie video right now. I mean, I'm doing my own project, but I'm not done. So like I bought a microphone. I'm trying to make a voice assistant into a microphone. I don't know, and then it's a hand microphone, so it already has a button to like talk. So you can just be like, turn on the lights. And so it has an old school curled cable because that's nice. So that's my project I'm currently hacking on. And so far I was hacking on it with someone else, and basically we managed to remove all the guts and clean it up. So that's a good start.
That's really cool. I think the only thing it needs is the walkie-talkie needs a language pack that just ends every statement with over.
Yes.
There you go.
Alice, do you have like a storage unit full of just random electronics? Because I feel like
I mean that's like no, yeah, I have like I need to stop going on eBay because like I've really been falling in love with just like the old school design of like, because like, this microphone, this is metal. This is just like, This is really sturdy. And like, I mean, it needs to be like maybe I don't know how it's called, that you kind of put a coat of paint on it or whatever, but like, it just looks so cool. And that's just like, nowadays it's like, oh wow, it's like a white box, like boring. So But yeah, no, I need to. I used to have this rule for myself, which I kind of failed upon lately. But I wouldn't buy my next project until I finish the last project. But that ship has sailed, I think.
I was going to say you're a better man than me. I can't, if I don't have 6 projects going on at the same time that are in various states between 25% and 80%, I'm doing something wrong.
Right, like my goal is that like I think of a very cool project, and then like we just build it for Home Assistant, and then I can just install and follow the tutorial on the website. That's how I got my phone working. And
Nice.
How many such projects are on that shelf behind you?
no, yeah. So there's no, this is not too many. I mean, there's I got this phone. I don't know if I showed it last time.
The collection of phones has been.
There's yeah. No, this is a phone from a old Soviet bunker in Ukraine. I hope they don't need it anymore. But it has what is so really cool about it. It has no dial pad. It's just like, yeah, it's just empty. I mean, it's a bit dirty also. But yeah, I thought it'd be cool because we don't need a dial pad for a voice assistant, right? So you just have this device. But yeah, it's adding up.
I don't even want to show you the shelves that are behind me here.
Yeah. All right. Shall we take a look at the release notes? Let's go. All right.
Actually, I just wanted to. So one comment. It was a while ago now. I know. I saw a comment in the or question in there about restoring from network mounts. I just wanted to make sure you can do that. I think I made a comment about onboarding. That was a side gap. You can definitely restore your backups directly from your network mount. When you look at the backup page, it will list all the back across everywhere they are, and you can just click one and restore. So just to make sure people know that. Sorry.
All right. And then we got this question from JLO. Will you add ring capabilities to VoIP? So of course we've added support for phones like this, right? You can call, la la la. But it's like it's a phone, right? So actually, the cool thing is what if we could communicate the other way around, right? What if we could like send a notification to a room, and the notification would happen because the phone starts ringing, and when you pick up, we will read a notification for you in like the same text-to-speech languages that like is the configured pipeline. So this is something that Mike is working on. So hopefully we maybe somewhere this summer we expect to be able to get shipped that, and that will be really cool because then all of a sudden you have a phone that you can call. Yay! We've gone full circle. But yeah, I think it will be really cool for notifications, especially like for my kids, right? Like if my kids are like, if I say it's time for dinner, they'll ignore me. But if their phone is ringing in their room, they have to pick up. And then, of course, in Home Assistant, you can also see that the phone was picked up, so they have received the notification. So
the ultimate harassment: come to dinner.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Release notes. Yes, this one is another one of my favorites, actually. So we updated the light more info dialog a couple of releases ago, and we hadn't fully finished it yet. We had like bigger plans. We then it kind of fell off the radar with like voice and stuff. But there's some people in the community also felt like they were not heard. So we've been listening to the feedback, adjusting our mock-ups as we had them as well, and kind of like found a great way now to incorporate all these things. So without further ado, you will now have, let me just, there you go. Right now, so there's a couple of new things here. One, you can quickly jump to the color pickers. So you can say, I want to pick a color right now. I want to pick a color temperature right now. This is based on the color mode supported by Light. You can also pick and store your favorite colors. So if there's like 4 or 5 colors that you like to use, you can now pick it and store that right here. And that way you can you don't have to go through a color picker It's you can see it kind of like a mini scene just for a single light, but it will be helpful to be really to quickly pick your favorite color. So people were saying, I don't want to do clicks. Why are there so many clicks? And now with this current new approach, you should be able to have just single click favorite colors all the way. And the animation is really cool. So you can long press the colors. You can drag and drop them because, people do love their drag and drop. You can pick the color. Then based on the tabs, you can say which color mode. Is this a color temperature card? When you're done, just hit the check mark. It's stored. Now, what you can also do if you don't want to, like long press doesn't always work on mobile. This is sadly just browsers on mobile do too much magic. So you can also just go to the triple dot menu and click manage colors to get into this mode. But yeah, I'm really stoked about this. This is like it's a great addition. And I think the other thing that I'm just going to scroll up right now, you also see the status back. You can see how long ago it was changed. So like 1 minute ago, these kind of things. And then no, I lost my train of thought. Oh no, and there's an Easter egg. You can now, Paul added this. You can actually click on the 4 hours ago if you want the exact timestamp that something happened. So if it says 4 hours ago, click, boom, you're good to go. So yeah, this is really, really sweet.
Hey, I actually have a question about it. Can you save brightness levels or no?
No, you cannot save brightness levels. So it's not a full scene. It's really just only for the color. I'm gonna share. This is my. This is the frame, the one behind me. It's currently set to rainbow. This is a WLED thing, so I can also change it to like something else. Change the brightness. Added favorite colors. Yeah. So you can you have the native color picker, or you can do which is kind of cool because you can pick any color on the screen. But yeah, there's you cannot change the brightness.
Yeah, I've used a custom front end component for a while that just basically changes my slider into 3 buttons for high, medium, and low. Thought it would be cool if buttons.
That's a bit like how we do the fans, right?
Yeah.
Like basically you would have this UI. All right. Boom, boom. Any questions about this? The favorite colors are per light. Somebody's asking how are they stored. So all users can see these colors that are stored on a per light basis. And the lights are generated automatically the first time you open this window. And then their goal is also, of course, to bring them back into Android and these kind of things. Mike, this is Keith, this one is for you. They want to have your low medium.
Yeah, I'll find it.
Oh, Mike. So yes, that was Mike. Somebody's asking, can I add a favorite color for light groups? Yes, any light entity can do it. So a light group is a valid light entity. Yeah. So let me see if there are other questions. No. Awesome. I'm just gonna quickly. Can we change the Zigbee channel? Yes. I'm like 95% sure that was merged. So you should be able to change Zigbee channels. I'm actually we're gonna live check this out. Just gonna deviate Zigbee channels. That will be under Zigbee. Migrate radio. Oh, I'm gonna do live. This is not gonna go well. Reconfigure the current radio. No, that was not the button. Okay, so I think it's possible. I'm just not sure right now where it is. I will observe Discord and see what's if somebody DMs me the right answer. Last but not least, for entities, then it's the way it's formatted now. We're doing all the UI stuff. I was like hoping we're gonna go to the stuff that Roman was working on. Why don't we just switch to that, Roman? You want to talk about Z-Wave?
Sure, happy to. Let's see, forget what we did. That's right. Okay.
Text.
What'd you say?
I have this text I put on this is from the release notes, but
okay, cool. Yeah. So first thing is the integration reached platinum level. The main thing there that was the gap up till now was test coverage. I think we're at like 98% test coverage, which is pretty cool. And yeah, not really much else to say beyond that for the quality scale. One thing that we were getting a lot of complaints about, specifically with lights and I can't remember what other entity off the top of my head, maybe fans. No, not fans. Those lights and something, when you toggled them on, the command would get sent to the device, but then the state would still be off. So the toggle would flip back, and then a couple seconds later, it would flip back to on. And the reason that happened is because we were waiting for Z-Wave to basically, the Z-Wave controller to basically confirm that the state had changed. But now we do optimistic state updates. So when you click on, we assume that on is the final state you want to reach. So it's, you know, a small thing, but it's just a UI fix. Makes that a little less. We added
the flip-flopping. The flip-flopping it's interesting because the way it's solved now, at least the state will also remain stable, right? Like in the state machine also used to flip around. And we also used to have this issue where like you would like start sliding the brightness slider and it would like all of a sudden like go all over the place, right? Trying to get every change in represented again. So I think this is a really good change.
Yeah, so it's also, I believe this is a certification requirement. So it's not listed here, but Al or Dominic has been slowly marching towards getting Z-Wave.js certified. And he's been opening issues for the integration when he finds issues that we need to fix to get certified. So hopefully in a future release, we'll be celebrating that, but there's more to come there.
But can I show his progress? I think it's really cool. So Dominique is the founder of Z-Wave.js, and he is responsible for writing the Z-Wave.js driver. So basically, he's writing an application that talks to different Z-Wave sticks and then makes sure that we have a Z-Wave controller, and then we integrate that driver into Home Assistant. That is the work that Roman is focusing on. So we have entities and services and devices and a UI. That's like the Home Assistant part. And so Dominique, he works at Nabucasa as well. He has been working full-time on, and his goal is get Z-Wave.js, like, of course, continue development, but the goal is to get it certified. So we've been going through these different test suites that we have access to. And basically, there's a lot of test suites. And so he's just like, his work basically is like, he runs a test, he sees things break. As you can see, sometimes it's UI requirements. He forwards it to like makes issues in the Home Assistant so that we can track it. And then there's different categories. There's a lot of tests going on. There's a lot of and because we're a controller, we need to do all the tests, right? Like if you are a light bulb, you only do light bulb tests. We are a controller, so we need to do all the tests to interact with light bulbs. So these are a lot of tests. Some of them are super annoying. I think the other day he mentioned that one that was taking 65 minutes, which is just insane, of like just devices talking to each other. So yeah, I mean, just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. It's a long list. It's a lot of work. And of course, it makes Z-Wave and Home Assistant better. So it means, in fact, it makes not just in Home Assistant, but any other project that relies on ZFGS will be better, right? Like the goal that we have, like across Home Assistant and ZFGS, is that ZFGS is a full-on open source certified reference implementation of what a Z-Wave controller should be like. And then hopefully we can get more companies aboard also to help working on this and using this, so that, you know, we're just like with Matter, where we don't no longer compete on who can best control a light bulb over a thread or IP. It's actually with Z-Wave, like, you know, we just want, if everybody just works together on a single spec or a single driver, it makes the most sense.
Definitely. Can you pull the release notes back up? Because that was, I don't remember what else was there.
You gotta get the notes.
Okay, so we added some new entities. I think they're all disabled by default. One that's been requested before and we've held off on for a while is creating entities for every configuration parameter. The only thing to note there is that for partial parameters, where you have to set multiple partial parameters together, the entities may not work exactly how you want. And this is a problem that I literally just thought of as I was presenting this. So we'll think about how to address that in the future. We also added, so one thing you'll notice if you go into the integration configuration panel is we have some statistics that Z-Wave.js collects on behalf of the controller and each of the devices. That gives you a sense of basically the health of your RF network and the environment in which you're operating your RF network. So to make it easier to track those statistics, we now have entities for each of those individual statistics for the controller as well as for each device. This will let you do long-term graphing. You can also build automations around it to detect or notify you when RF conditions are poor. It's not mentioned here, but I'll just mention briefly, we added support for a couple of additional command classes. So command classes are basically the application layer of Z-Wave JS. They basically
type, right? Like a light is a command class.
Exactly. So there's one for window coverings as well as for energy production. We've added support for both of those. Window covering, the reason that one's helpful is, aside from increasing device support, we actually had, we found out that there's a device, the iBlinds V3, because of the way we had implemented it, both open and closed the blinds, because the blinds are slats. And so 0 is closed in one direction, 99 is closed in a different direction. And we were assuming 0 to 99. So with the window covering CC, we fixed that.
It's kind of wild, right? Like how there's all these different, like we just, you know, we think we implement Z-Wave and then you're done. But like there's just the way devices work and the way like everybody will try to be as creative as possible with like specifications to make their innovative feature work. And yeah, sometimes we get bitten.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, you know, if you've used OZW or the old Z-Wave integration, there was a lot more device-specific workarounds that were there, and I think that's credit to Dominic for building like a really great driver that prevents us from having to do that very often. So.
Yeah. No, and I think also, I mean, the other thing here that's good to mention is that we have the Works with Home Assistant program, and we have like Z-Wave partners, and actually when these partners join the Works with Home Assistant program, they're having to send us test devices, Z-Wave devices, and we will actually, Dominique will test them against Z-Wave.js, make sure that the configuration is all correct, that the documentation is correct. And so we also see sometimes that something doesn't work correctly, and then we send it back, and we can do some over-the-air updates as well. So there's a Z-Wave.js update server as well, where we can like provide updates for Z-Wave devices. So you make the full circle of like just making everything work better.
Yep. So that's pretty much it. I mean, the at this point, from a roadmap perspective, the majority of the features that we wanted to build are done. Right. We have some UI enhancements we'd like to make, and then really the big next target is certification. So we'll just keep marching towards that until we get there.
Well, you forgot another important change is that Z-Wave integration is now platinum quality scale, right?
Yep.
So we have within Home Assistant, we have a kind of a set of checklists and requirements for to get a quality skill. We have silver, we have bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, and each level has more requirements about error handling and the way the integration works and test coverage and these kind of things. And so, Raman made it, and now it's platinum.
Yeah, I saw a question earlier. I think it was about association groups from Jerome. How can Z-Wave JS integration reach platinum when it is still not possible to manage groups? So platinum, or the quality scale, is an internal Home Assistant metric that we use to try and measure the quality of the code and the integration. That doesn't mean the integration supports everything that a specific standard expects you or wants you to do. It just means that we have the full suite of tests. Everything is async. Yeah. Basically, things work. It's very stable and it works very quickly. Those are, I guess, the desired outcomes of the requirements, right, Paulus?
Yeah, no, that's correct. Yeah, it's about how well it integrates into Home Assistant. So, and I think that like group associations, it's probably part of the requirements for certification that they are exposed somewhere in the UI, and so they'll come somewhere. I mean, the certification for Z-Wave is kind of annoying in that they want all of their edge case features that has ever existed. There has to be a UI for it, which goes against like the grain of like we want to just build like a user-friendly interface. And I mean, this is great because Z-Wave is backwards compatible, right? So a device that used some obscure feature 10 years ago should still be able to work today.
I saw recently that association groups may not actually be required for certification. But I've heard both things, so I don't know which one it is. Yeah. I think I've heard before that people want it in the UI regardless, so we'll probably build it at some point. It just hasn't been a priority up till now. I will also make a plea here for anybody here who's savvy with the front end in general. Please come find us in the Discord channel. I am not a front end guy. I've written some front end code, and anything that's kind of like a broken or crappy experience in the Z-Wave control panel, I probably had a hand in it. I'd rather have somebody who knows what they're doing involved. So welcome contributors. Reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Raman.
Thank you.
I want to just quickly change back to the Z-Wave channel changing, because apparently it was just right there on the screen. So we're going back to Zigbee configure. Look, there's just a pencil icon next to channel. You can click here. You can change the channel. However, I use multi-protocol because I'm on a yellow, so I'm running both Thread and Zigbee at the same time. We should probably have a box here, like redirect me to the right location. But for now, you have to go back to System, Hardware, Configure, multi-protocol support, reconfigure, and here I can change the channel. So if you change the channel here, it will change it for both Zigbee and Thread, and then migrate devices along. Note, however, that not all devices support this correctly, so you might lose a couple of Zigbee devices along the way. You might not lose Thread devices because A, it should just work with Thread. B, you most likely don't have Thread devices. Yeah, so that's changing the channel. Let me see. All right, now back to the UI. We have one more UI change. No, we have actually two more things. They're all really cool. Actually, we realized we're already an hour in. This is because there's so many features. This one is also it's cool. This one is we've actually made an improvement to the related dialog. So when you click on an entity, you can always click on related, and you can see kind of everything that belongs to it. In this case, you can see this. The thermostat belongs to the Atom integration. It belongs to the living room thermostat device it is in the living room, and the related endpoints, or related entities, these are entities that belong to this entity. So it will help you to really quick kind of navigate around and see where you want to go. And this is not the only change we've made. Now there's this related information also now applies to blueprints. So right now, when you try to delete a blueprint and then you're actually using it, the user interface will tell you like, well, wait a second. There's like 2 automations using this blueprint. You can no longer delete it. First, delete these automations. And so that's now possible. And you will also see blueprints in the related information if you would open an automation entity. And this is part of like what we're trying to do here with the related entities and like kind of cleaning this up. The goal is that if you find like one part of your entity, but you really want to manage the integration, you can now quickly, with a few clicks, you're in the right place. Oh, I see that the next feature is already like shown on the screen. This is a great contribution by Car Wasts. No name known. So now on any, I'm just going to show a live demo because the other one goes a bit too fast. I'm going to open a new automation. No, I'm going to go to an existing automation. For example, if I, this is like, hey, if I have left the door open for 5 minutes, you can now go on any trigger, condition, or action. You can go, there is a duplicate, copy, or cut. So duplicate was already there, but now you can do copy or cut. Cut, of course, will remove it. You can paste it other places. Copy means you can copy and place it in other places. So I'm going to do a copy here. Now, let's say when I click now on add trigger, you can say, oh, paste, and you will use the trigger that you just copied. It's not limited to this page. If I would go to a new automation and I click add trigger, I can now paste that trigger. Boom, bike entry open for 5 minutes. It's right there. Now, these triggers are also not only related, like anywhere you can use triggers, you can now paste it. So let's say you're using a wait for trigger action. You can add the trigger, you paste the device, and all of a sudden, your new trigger is now defined inside this wait for trigger. So this is a really, really useful feature. I think a lot of, this is something that a lot of people have been waiting for. Maybe not in this way, shape, or form, but like this implementation is really, really clean. And I think that, it's just genius to add it to the add buttons, right? So you'll be like, oh, I added a trigger. Oh, I just copied one. It's right there. So really cool. I think that a lot of people are going to like this a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. It'll be a time saver. Don't have to do it in YAML mode.
Right. I mean, that's what I used to do, right? Like you just go into YAML, you copy it, and like, yeah. And this copy paste, this is like stored in your browser session. You reload the page, it will not be there. You close the page, it will not be there anymore. But as long as you keep the browser open, you're browsing around, it will stay there.
This is specifically, within the same automation or also across automations, right?
Across. So for example, this was I've now been in automations. I'm going to make a script. I go to add action, wait for trigger, add my trigger, paste device trigger. And here it is again. And you can you can copy paste it multiple times. Like you can paste multiple times, right? Like it is not like a move, it's a copy. Bart is asking, what's a good use case for this? Well, say you have your favorite condition that you want to paste around. You can easily do that. Say you want to have a trigger, but you're actually rewriting your automation to use a wait for trigger. You can now move those around. There's a lot of different use cases that can be unlocked.
Yeah,
or if you just want to make a backup. Right?
There's a good one in comments too. I mean, when you go to bed and you're already in bed and you realize that something just broke and you only have your phone, it's a lot easier to copy and paste this way.
Yes. Yes. That's the thing with I love our automation editor, but on a phone, everything is just difficult. There's just too many options, too many things. we've improved it a lot in the last year. Like we did this redesign, but yeah, it's still a pain. All right. This is automation editor. It's interesting, this stream. Normally we have like Frank or Bram here, which are also more like generically involved with the development of Home Assistant, so that like there's more speaking time for everybody, right? Like I feel like there's a lot of things now that I'm like kind of solo running, but it's okay. It's there's some cool stuff coming down here also that Roman has worked on. But let's first talk about Python 3.11. So we're shipping Python 3.11 in the containers now. So this means that 96% of Home Assistant users after today's upgrade will use Python 3.11. Where does this number come from? It comes from Home Assistant Analytics. This is our opt-in analytics, where we can see how many Home Assistant instances there are. Almost 240,000. Adoption rate, as always, stays happening very well. We can always see that like at least 50% updates within a month. And this one is actually the graph I wanted to show. This is installation type. So how are people running Home Assistant? There are 4 ways of running Home Assistant. Our favorite one is operating system. It means that you're running our Home Assistant operating system, supervisor, and Home Assistant core all together. It's the most optimal way of running Home Assistant. It is the least maintenance, and you can really spend all your time on automation. Because you don't have to maintain anything. Everything that you need to maintain, you can just press a button in the UI and like it will update. Operating system updates fail, it will automatically roll back. Same with supervisor, Home Assistant updates. It's really stable. The second popular installation is container. Container is if you use Docker. This can be on like a NAS, for example. There are ways to run Docker. People will run Home Assistant like that. You will do a lot more work when you run container because you don't have access to add-ons, and there's a bunch of services that we require in add-ons nowadays. For example, Z-Wave is one, Matter is another one. Matter actually requires quite some tweaks in the kernel that Home Assistant OS includes. So it might be that your Matter server doesn't even work perfectly in just a container. But yeah, container is very popular. Supervised, it's like you pretend you're running Home Assistant OS, but you actually manage your own operating system. It is I would say, a pretty fragile way of installing because you need to then maintain your operating system to match our requirements. And our requirements are changing like, I don't know, what is it, Mike? Every 6 months, every year, there's like some, as we go with like updates of the ecosystem, people need to update the operating system. And then the last thing is core. You just run the Python application. Now, all these, everything but core shares the same container to run Home Assistant. And so that means that now all these people are running Python 3.11, and core users, the 3.6% of the users that are running core, they will need to upgrade their Python version. So they will, that's a new deprecation, a new change that we made. Right now, we're going to support only a single Python version with a transition phase of 3 months after a new Python version is released. And so right now we're on Python 3.11, and Python 3.10 is no longer supported. It's deprecated right now. Oh, and these analytics, if people are interested, these are opt-in analytics. You can opt in during onboarding or always from settings. And we use this information to make data-driven decisions. We also use it to see where our user base is. It will not, you can actually clearly see the information that is being shared about you. It's not about you or your instance, it's mainly about how you run Home Assistant. Do you use OS? Do you use container? And then you can also opt in optionally to share like the integrations that you're running, and you can actually see, we use this data a lot to talk to manufacturers. So if we talk to manufacturers, we can tell them like, listen, there's so many people using your, like, for example, Google Cast. I can go to Google and say, listen, 50% of our users have Google Cast in their home. Like, please add this feature because it's very important for our users. So don't break this feature because it will impact our user base. All right. That was 3.11. Yeah.
One other thing about Python 3.11, which is less for users and more for developers, the exception logging is a lot better too.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, so it makes if you're on the development side, it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, no, it's Python 3.11. I mean, and it's a lot faster. I guess I didn't even mention that yet, but it's Python 3.11 has done a lot of speed ups, and it's actually setting the. They've already built some foundation that in Python 3.12 will be even more faster, right? So this is really beneficial because we're running on low-powered devices like a Raspberry Pi, and so every kind of if Python gets faster, everything we do gets faster. Like we can make Home Assistant faster, but if Home Assistant calls into another library, that might still be slow. If Python gets faster, all the libraries, Home Assistant, everything that runs Python will get faster. Now, we don't just rely on Python to get faster. We also have our in-house performance optimizer, Bidraco, and he has literally been all over the place analyzing startup of Home Assistant. Where do we see bottlenecks? What can move faster? And there's too much to mention, but everything should feel faster. Not only feel is faster, which is also always an interesting side effect. Is that sometimes we learn about new issues because things are happening faster, and apparently there was a race condition we never noticed before. But we haven't noticed any of these issues, so this is going to be good. All right, I'm just going to jump over Matter Z-Wave updates, and I'm going to jump straight to the new entities: date, time, and date time. Roman.
Yeah. So we have 3 new entities. So a lot of users are familiar with the input datetime helper. This lets you create input datetimes, which you can use often in automations. People use them to, like set triggers for certain times. But integrations couldn't provide these entities. And so if you imagine, for example, trying to integrate with an alarm clock, and you want to be able to configure the time that the alarm goes off, there was no real good way to do that. So that's why we introduced the date time and date time entities. With the input date time helper, it supports all 3 modes: time only, date only, or date and time. For this, we decided to just make things simpler. We would create 3 different entity types depending on what the use case is.
Yeah, this was really cool because I think it was just one of those kind of missing gaps in our repertoire of what integrations can use. So yeah, I think it will be really cool. There's a question here from Jelle. Are these available in 24-hour format without AM and PM? And I would say that depends on your browser settings. So if your browser is set up to use a daytime format that uses AM PM, so will the input boxes. It should automatically adjust.
Yeah, and if you're accessing these via templates, you can always transform them to whatever format you need.
Yeah, and we store it as a just UTC ISO formatted timestamp. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, boom. We're gonna go back up. We're going all over the place. Matter. So. And Lewis face is right there. That's good. There was an update of the Matter SDK, Matter 1.1. This was actually, because it's an add-on, we actually shipped this add-on a couple of weeks ago, and it's been really, really good. There's been a lot of issues that have been resolved. There were issues with thread devices, issues with devices going unavailable, popping back up. We see all over the place things are just getting fixed. On the same time, we also see with thread devices, there's still some struggles sometimes, but the thread device connected to the Home Assistant Open Thread Border Router, very stable. Connected to the latest Apple update, very stable. We see a small regression with the Google stability, but we're talking to somebody who was running a beta version, and it seems to also have resolved the issues. So I think at this point, I would say that if you are going to buy a device that uses Wi-Fi, and there is an option to use for one with Matter, you should pick the Matter one. I think that because there's no Wi-Fi standard, right? And so with Matter, it will work. You're not even locked into like home automation platforms that implement that protocol or platform. I think that it's good. Now, the downside on that suggestion is that there's actually not that many device types in Matter yet. There's not even power consumption monitoring is not even in Matter. So as long as that's not there, you're not going to find a lot of devices where you'd be like, this is going to be definitely, I'm going to pick the Matter one. The Matter over Thread, I would, it's still too much relying on the latest updates left and right, and getting the credentials in sync between the different networks is also not the best yet. So I would not go out of my way yet for Matter over Thread, but I wouldn't be afraid of it. Just don't, for things like Christmas trees, it's great. Don't put it yet for mission critical things.
Are there any good platforms for Matter hardware right now?
To develop your own Matter devices?
No, as in, is there a company that's got a good suite of Matter products? I don't have any Matter devices yet.
So I think the way Matter has been mainly being brought to us right now is because through hubs. So Akara has a hub, SwitchBot has a hub, Philips Hue has a hub, and they have enabled Matter. And Matter has what is called a bridge mode, which is really cool. It means that we talk over Wi-Fi to their hub, and that hub can talk Zigbee or Bluetooth or whatever. They talk to their devices. We don't care at that point. We just talk Matter. And so a Philips Hue hub will expose each light as just over Matter. So we can just control it. Now, in the case of Philips Hue, this is actually a downgrade because we implement Philips Hue API version 2. It has the same local push. It is and the Philips Hue API, Philips does a lot of stuff with dynamic scenes and all that stuff, which is not included in Matter. So the Philips Hue API is definitely better. I think the Akara hub did not have an integration. The protocol is not known. Mm-hmm. So using Matter is the best thing we've had. The SwitchBot Matter implementation is a bit poor. They forget to tell us the names. Yeah, so we can control the devices. You just don't know which one. It's interesting. Somebody's asking what's the Philips Hue of Matter? And the thing with Matter is there is just Matter, right? I think if you're asking who makes the most beautiful light bulbs that are with LED that doesn't flicker and the right color representation, well, that would probably still be Philips Hue, and you can just use that over Matter. There is no, there's no one device manufacturer oh, that's the best Matter device right now. Yeah. This is an interesting question. Do you recommend managing Philips Hue bulbs directly with Home Assistant or through the Philips Hue hub? I don't really know. I would say it depends. I think if you connect your Philips Hue hubs directly to Home Assistant through the Zigbee controller, and for example Home Assistant Yellow, or use a Home Assistant Sky Connect like this one. Oh, and the nice thing if you do that is that you can get your Zigbee network can cover more than what Philips Hue supports. So if you have sensors that Philips Hue doesn't support, you can do all those. There will be one big Zigbee network, and all the packets will come to Home Assistant faster because every light bulb is connected to the main power. It's always powered on, and so it will route Zigbee packets. If you are, however, using the Philips Hue hub, you have access to their scenes, and so they have these dynamic scenes that are changing on things. So if you like that kind of stuff, that's features that Home Assistant can also access on the Philips Hue hub, but we do not offer for Zigbee lights, for example. All right. Let me see if there are other questions. No. All right. Somebody's talking about Wiz lights. Wiz lights are using Wi-Fi and are also getting Matter. So a lot of the companies that have Wi-Fi based products, they're going to add Matter as well, because it's just from a business perspective, it's like, oh, my product will work out of the box with like Google, Apple, and Amazon. That is just a bigger audience, right? When you do like market potential research, like that is the way to go. Before we move on from Matter, no, actually, I want to move on from Matter, but before we move back to the release notes, 10, 20 minutes ago, I was talking about changing Zigbee channels. I was responding to a request from a user. Wait, did I already show this or not?
Yeah, you went in.
Oh, I already showed it. Okay, good. Then I'm not going to show it again. Good. Z-Wave updates you've done, entities, other noteworthy changes. Yeah, these are all really cool. So the one thing, the first one is really cool, is that in the services UI, we now will, each field of a service call, we will hide if the selected entities do not support it. So if you are targeting a light, and you will not get the option to change the color temperature if it doesn't do color temperatures. And this will actually clean up the UI a lot, because it used to be that you saw like a lot of fields that were not relevant for the entities you were about to control. This is mainly important if you're building a script or an automation or using the dev tools. The Roborock integration, it is moving like light speed. Lash Al has just been, he keeps adding new entities, new platforms. There's even some stuff that he added that hasn't even made the cut yet, will be for the next release, but it's starting to turn into a really, really nice integration. The Android TV remote, we introduced this last release. It was contributed. It's a great integration because it allows you to control Android TV devices through their remote API instead of using the debug bridge. So this is, you would set it up, your TV gives you a PIN code, you pair it up, and now you can also use it as a media player. Another big one, KNX. It's a installer-based home automation system that people use. The integration now has been expanded, and you can actually, with its own UI. So you'll be able to upload KNX project files and actually see live data going over the bus of KNX, so you know what data is coming in and out. Really cool. Let's see. Yeah, on-fifth camera. On-fifth is like an open standard for cameras, kind of like the Matter for cameras, as you may. And there has never been really strict certification. There's a lot of bugs going around. So we now have an option to disable webhooks, which webhooks are great because the camera will tell us when like motion happens, but sometimes it just breaks. So this will help us like work around that. New UI to actually change variables. Previously, this would just be a YAML block. Now it has like a bit better UI.
That's pretty awesome. I use this all the time.
Yeah, I think that like, you know, we'll slowly like are taking pieces away from like why people want to use YAML and like make the UI better. The add-ons dashboard has a search bar. That's for you hardcore users that have like 20 add-ons. You can now easily find it. Samsung TV remote. Yeah. That's about it. Boom. Release. Now we have, that's not true. We have some new integrations. I think the one that stands out, of course, is YouTube. It's you can now keep track of the Home Assistant YouTube channel, be made aware of when we're doing the next stream. The other thing is the Google generative AI conversation. So we already had ChatGPT integration with Home Assistant, so you can talk to ChatGPT with like your phone, your voice assistant, or just like chatting. This has now been updated, so you can also talk to Google's large language model. It's of similar quality. It is, however, limited to the United States. So that is a bit of a downer.
So now can you make a dashboard where you battle them?
Oh, I think so. No, because you can only human versus computer, like in our assist. Yeah, that's too bad. That's too bad. Um, yeah, AirZone Cloud. It's. I think we already had AirZone, but we only had local control. Now somebody has added a cloud control to add like more devices to it. JVC projectors, Electro Smart. Pretty good set of new integrations. And then we added like we added Piper and Whisper as add-ons last release. This time we finished it off by adding some virtual integrations. Yeah, I mean that's it for this release. Are there? What's your favorite feature, Mike?
I mean, other than the one I made, I guess. I mean, I'm a big fan of new automation features. I definitely like the variables and copy and paste. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean that's just gonna be very useful. I think for me, my favorite is still it's just the integration dashboard cleanup. Like this is so often that I'm like, I need to change this device. You just like now click, click, click. And of course, like the one thing I always forget is that like there's a search here and you can just search for like, things. Oh, I'm not sure sharing my screen. Yeah, there's a search in settings, right? You can just like quickly search for stuff. Now it says searching for commands, restart. You can search for entities. I want to see my frame. But that's like, I always forget about it. So I always like going through the integrations page. Oh yeah, Frank, that's a good one. Offsite backup. That's the killer feature.
That's funny. I worked so much on the network storage, but I actually don't have one. It's just everyone else. So maybe I should go get a NAS and set that up. That'll be my next project.
Just one more Raspberry Pi. Yeah. Keith, what's coming up for ESP Home? You want to give us a sneak peek?
Oh my gosh, you're catching me off guard here. I've been tinkering with some packet radio stuff kind of in the background amongst our other projects, but yeah, it's there's always new things. Let me get the I don't even have it up on this machine. There we go. Yeah, what's brewing here? I need to take a look.
In the meanwhile, somebody has a question. Any update about Sky Connect? I'm not sure what update. If you're waiting for it to be back in stock, that should happen. We have just finished the big production run and sending it out to people. So Sky Connect should be able. We're hopeful that this summer, especially like probably by July, we're in a place where instead of being out of stock, waiting for the next shipment, it's just going to be available. And so for people that don't know, Sky Connect is our USB stick that you can add Zigbee and Thread to your smart home, to Home Assistant. It's a feature that like one radio can run both Thread and Zigbee. So it makes very convenient, everything in one stick. And firmware updates automatically released updated through Home Assistant. So, it's our stick, it's our software. So we make sure that integration is very tight and kept up to date.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm seeing lots of fixes for a big range of things. There's some ESP or ESP IDF5 support. There were some fixes for that. Jesse's RMT LED strip component, which is a great way to kind of dance around the issues with building the NeoPixel bus and fast LED on the Arduino frameworks. I know that's been kind of a long-standing problem due to some version mismatch issues that I won't go into. But yeah, if you're using an ESP32, that's a great way. I actually did that for these string lights I have on my patio. I was using a similar approach to dance around that. So yeah, that's definitely useful. So yeah, there's always a bunch of good things brewing. So we'll see where we end up in another week or so
Right.
with the release.
Right. Yeah. For the people that are unaware of the release schedules, Home Assistant release first Wednesday of the month. ESP Home always 2 weeks later, so the third Wednesday of the month.
With the beta the week before.
Right. Yes.
So,
in both cases.
Yeah.
Keith,
So-
that was that was an excellent politician's answer.
Yes.
Yeah, Jesse's mentioning alarm control panels.
Alarm control panel. Yes, I did see some chatter about that. Yeah, I'm trying to pull things. I tend to lurk in the Discord. I'm not quite as active as Jesse is, but I see things roll by as I'm looking at it over the course of the day. And yeah, I did see some chat about that. So that's cool. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm thinking if I have any new gadgets, but I'm looking around, but except for my microphone, of course. But it's
Yes. You're gonna need a phone in every room, Paula, so you can just like call around the house and upstairs, downstairs.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I guess that's the next step, right? We start with like, you can call Home Assistant. Second step, Home Assistant can call you. Third step, you can make calls through Home Assistant. Fourth step, we sunset asterisk, and then we are our own VoIP service. I hope not. Yeah. Oh, this is just another thing. ESP Home, daytime and daytime stuff will come as well. Which, by the way, this is going to be great for ESP Home, because now you can just instantly have like schedules be built, right? Maybe you have like 7 switches, and then for each day you can toggle, should I do something this day, yes or no, and then what time. And so you can like make some basic automations that will even keep running when Home Assistant is down.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point. Automations on ESP devices do run even if Home Assistant is not available. If your Wi-Fi is down, if Home Assistant's down, if there's just a problem with the connection. A lot of people ask that. But yeah, the daytime thing has been a bit of a pain point in ESP Home, so it'll be really great to get that built into there. A lot of people are trying to do things, anything as simple as just having a light switch on and off at a certain time, to maybe controlling like a pool heater or a thermostat, or more advanced things. I worked on that sprinkler controller. A lot of people want to have their sprinklers start at a certain time in the morning, so that'll be really, really helpful to have in place.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, that's actually probably outside of this release. That's probably the one I'm most excited about. I just needed a template. Just need the template integration and implement that, and I'll be all set.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many there. I just didn't know what to do about that one.
Well, I have another thing, by the way, that I realized that like we haven't like shown yet. It's our new repository called Voice Datasets. So we've been, we released our own text-to-speech system called Piper. It's built in-house by Mike, not this Mike the Voice Hansen, as we call him. And we, with Piper, the idea is we build our own system, which is a neural network, but it's optimized to generate voice on a Raspberry Pi. So we have to find a balance between quality and speed. So we can do 1.5 times as fast as real-time generate voices. It sounds really good. But of course, we only have trained voices based on data sets that we have or are publicly available on the internet. And so there's a bunch of languages that were missing. So we launched an email address, voice@nabukasa.com. And community members have been writing us saying, hey, I want to record voices. We have like a Piper recording studio now. So people can go in, it's a website, and if they have a good microphone at home, or they go to a audio recording studio, they can record themselves reading like these sentences. It takes like 2.5 hours or something. All these sentences together, we turn into data sets like these. And this is great because it means that we have like 1,000 sentences where we know what was being said, and we have the audio sample. And this is data that's going to feed into, for example, a Piper voice. So already starting last month, we've now have a bunch of new submitted voices. Joe, Kathleen, Kirsten, Dave, 2 Belgian voices. And so these are just the raw audio. So this is audio that we have gathered and are distributing. we'll train voices on, but it's also will be available for other researchers, right? To also train text-to-speech systems. Maybe somebody builds something even better than what we can do, and then we can just gladly adopt it because they, have the voices. So also we had, for example, no Polish or Russian or Brazilian Portuguese. Those should now also get added to Piper. Boom, boom. Somebody's asking, are we going to do Donald Duck as a voice? We are not gonna. We don't want to do voice cloning. So we will only train on like publicly accessible data sets.
We're not really looking for excuses to get sued by Disney.
Yeah. We have better things to do. Yeah. Hey Keith, there's some people asking, what's the light behind you?
The light behind me, it's backwards. There it's just a nano leaf. Nothing crazy. I built it myself in the sense that I put the panels on the wall, but it is not a homebrew ESP home 3D printed mishmash of things.
Yeah, I think there are designs available, right? Like with WLED or something to create your own like panels, but it's always the challenge is not per se the panels itself, but then once you've done that, you want to have the effects and actually work with all the panels in their shape, and this is where their app is really helpful, I think, right?
Yes, it is, and every once in a while you do a project and it's like, you know what, I'm just gonna spend a little money and let someone else solve that problem.
I agree. Yeah, because it's not just the building; it's the ongoing maintenance, right? Like now, when it breaks, they're gonna call you.
Yeah, and it takes time. 3D printing panels that size would potentially take hours, and especially if you want a lot of them. I mean, that's a little one there, but I've got one in the other room that's much larger, and I would probably have spent the better part of a couple of weeks printing enough panels to do that. And it's like, and then you've got to sit there and get all the LED tape on it and wire it up and solder it and so on and so forth. And
I think we make this one too.
Is that Did you do that yourself, or was that?
Yeah, no, that's like I have 4 rails of LED that are like 45-degree angle, they're then, instead of diffused with a piece of plastic, they're pointed at the wall, so the wall kind of spreads the reflection and diffuses it. It's like 132 LEDs.
Okay. Yeah.
So
nice.
That was my first WLED project.
Nice.
Okay, and my only, I have to admit, but
I have some string lights on the fences in front of the house that are wonderful for the holidays. You can set different colors and things, and it's nice.
And they made a permanent fixture?
They're permanent and as permanent as an LED string of, WS2812s or whatever they are. But we leave them out there all year and change them for different holidays. So it's nice. I also did the Hyperion thing for the TV backlighting. I love that.
For the people that don't know, Hyperion is it will take your thing you're seeing on your TV and then make the lights the same color, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it uses a Raspberry Pi and a USB video capture device. I'm doing the kind of the easy analog way, but basically the USB converts the HDMI to USB essentially, and then the Pi parses out the perimeter of whatever's on the screen and writes it out to the LED, so you get this kind of glow, and it changes as the picture changes on the TV. It's a neat thing. It adds kind of a neat ambiance, and then it integrates with Home Assistant. So I have it synced. So like if I'm watching something on Apple TV, for example, and I unpause it, it'll automatically switch the lights on. If I pause it, it turns them off. So
that's sweet.
Around that, it's you would not know it was not a function of the TV. Like it's that seamless. I absolutely love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That reminds me, talking about Apple TV. Like did you guys see the announcement for the Vision Pro, the new ski goggles? It's such a weird thing because it's a 3D operating system, but everything they were doing was 2D, right? They were just like, now you can work in Excel in your room. I was like, yeah, but. Yeah.
Wait till they introduce 3D spreadsheets.
3D.
No, thank you.
I mean, something I was saying, you can have
Y,
like, you know what? But in certain movies, you sometimes see those crazy people that have like the whole walls hanging with all this different like pictures and relationships between it. You could do that on demand, right? You kind of like store it. Like that kind of idea, I think would be cool. I don't think I have a use case for it, but it's like I have my GitHub notifications here, and then my other GitHub notifications there, or something.
I did read that I saw a couple of reviews that said that the eye tracking is like light years ahead of everything else out there.
I want to, yes. I mean, the fact that you can just look at something and then just do your fingers like this, poof, that's magic.
Yeah, every review I've seen said the eye tracking works substantially better than anyone was anticipating, which I think is really cool.
I mean, you know, I was thinking, why don't they should be able to bring that to just the normal computers, right? Bring it to the Mac. You just have some glasses, just the eye tracking, and then I can be here on my computer and do it.
So I think the way they've approached that is if you have a Mac and you get the glasses, you can basically take what's on your screen and then pull it into your experience.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I've done it with the Quest. That doesn't like the mouse doesn't translate well because then you're like on a 2D window, but you want to move your mouse to the next window or like. Sure. But I think eye tracking for input for clicking, that's just genius. I want it for everywhere in my life.
In good time.
Yeah. Well, at some point when they start measuring your brain waves when you want to click, where you just like, or you just blink.
Yeah, the only challenge is in work meetings when I'm not paying attention and accidentally clicking on the wrong thing because I'm looking the other way but trying to act like it.
You're just staring at the leave button and then you accidentally click it.
There you go. Yeah.
We're getting closer and closer to the Apple device Futurama predicted.
Right.
Which one is that?
What?
Oh, which one is that?
Doesn't he go to like one? He goes to an Apple shop and they like stick a thing like in the side of his eye, and then it does basically everything we're talking about here.
The future. Oh wow.
All right, Roman, do you have any new devices?
Any new devices? No. So I'm actually working on an ESP home device. So moved into a townhouse. We have a lot more space. We used to have motion sensors, but I don't want to put motion sensors everywhere. So I'm just experimenting with how to figure out that it's time for bed so that we can turn off the lights and change the temperature. So I got these pads, which they install in like retirement homes so that they can detect when people fall out of the bed. Yeah. And so I'm going to put one on both sides of the bed so that when my wife and I get into the bed, it detects that it's night. But to my point earlier, it is very janky looking. It does not use a custom PCB. And I thought maybe as a result of this conversation that I would get one, but Keith said no. So,
well, I'll start a repo that just has access, and you can create issues for the repo for everyone.
Here you go. Okay, cool.
You're just gonna have like an ESP bangling like underneath your mattress.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, I assume that's what everybody was doing. I see all these pictures of people putting, pixel tape, LED tape under and around the perimeter of the bed frame, so it makes the glow come out from under the bed. So I assume there's an ESP like just dangling under there somewhere.
Yeah.
Seriously, kind of,
It's like, what did you see it was popular on the forum for a bit. There was the bed presence sensor for beds with bed slats. That's specifically just that. It's like a ruler stuck between them.
Yeah.
And then the device went up when you got down.
Yeah, this one's actually kind of nice because it's just a pressure sensitive pad. I think it costs like $40, but it's just 2 wires that come out, and so it's really simple. Like this is my first ESP home project, and I picked it up pretty quickly. You don't have to really do so.
Go with like a light. You're immediately going hardcore, like bed present.
I haven't invested in lights yet. That's one area that I've been kind of I've been nervous to get involved in, because anybody I've talked to who has lights, like they're like, oh, I'm going to get one light bulb or two light bulbs, and then I talk to them, like within 6 months they've spent hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars all over their house.
This stuff.
Yeah.
This stuff, you'll go on Amazon or AliExpress, whatever your preferred site is, and you'll end up buying miles of this tape. I don't even want to tell you how much I've installed. If you want a simple light, just get an old coffee can, wrap it around a few times, and then you can hook it up to an ESP and put a lampshade over it. No one will ever know.
Yeah.
There you go.
I just know once I was just gonna say, I just know once I get involved, I'm just gonna want to do it everywhere and for everything. So
Yep.
Oh yeah, I have a mental list of all the switches in my house that haven't been replaced yet. Don't worry. I don't actually do the lights very much. I only do the lights, I think, in one place. I do the switches. But as a result, I have very little experience with colored lights in Home Assistant. I haven't done much of anything with that, actually.
I mean, if I would do switches, I would go for like just do Shelly, just because they are like tested and certified, and you're gonna like run like 120 volts through it.
Yeah, there's a lot of great options for if you just want to go buy something, that'll have nice connectors on it. You can plug it together. You don't have to do soldering. It's going to cost a little bit more, but it's a nice kind of turnkey solution for something. If you're not trying to do something that's really crazy custom, those types of things work particularly well. And it's honestly, again, it's pretty cheap. Like, you don't have to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars. You can go put LEDs around your bedroom or your living room for probably less than $100 really, if you're not going way over the top. But yeah, and then you'll have a new addiction and you'll keep doing more.
I'm good with the strip lights. Where I'm struggling right now is we have recessed lighting throughout our house, and we have 2-inch recessed bulbs, and not a lot of people do 2-inch. Like, you can find 3-inch and 4-inch. And so I looked at Hue, but then, if you want to do a couple rooms, you're already talking about a couple $100. So.
Hue is expensive. Nanoleaf is also expensive. I mean, this thing behind me that you see, was probably in the vicinity. I don't remember off the top, but I want to say in the vicinity of about $150. They're not cheap.
I was going to say, so Nanoleaf and Vesta board are like top 2 on the list of things that I can't justify buying, but would love to, because they just look so cool and look so much fun.
Yeah. The other thing a lot of people overlook with Nanoleaf is these panels are actually touch sensitive. So every individual panel can act as a sensor. And you can actually, if I wanted to take the time to set it up, I have not, but you could actually activate like different scenes, for example, in HomeKit. So if I touch this panel, you activate this scene. If I touch that panel, activate
that's cool.
scene. You can also do gestures. So like swipe up can make it brighter, swipe down can make it dimmer. Left or right will change the scene or pattern that it's doing. Like, it's doing this little rainbow thing right now, but you can swipe across and it'll change it to like some kind of pulsing thing or whatever. So it was one of the things that I didn't realize until I got them. To be completely, like, full disclosure, like, I had no idea they did that.
Right.
And
I wonder how many % of their users use those features, right? Like, how many people wouldn't? I think most people just install it, put on an effect, and just call it a day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so do we have a Nanoleaf integration? Because it'd be cool if you could. Yeah. So can you automate off those touches?
Yeah, it supports all of the basically everything. So yeah, it's actually, it integrates really nicely into Home Assistant.
Yeah.
Cool. So when my wife looks at the next credit card bill, I'm gonna be like, so there was this guy named Keith, and he was talking about the Nanoleaf.
All right. I think it's about time to wrap up. Thanks everybody for watching today. I don't know if you guys hear my background sound. There's some noise here. Anyway, if you're looking at this and you're still watching this, please support our work. Subscribe to Home Assistant Cloud by Nabukasa. It pays our bills, helps us buy more gadgets to integrate, and just like helps all the work we're doing on like the open home, ESP web tools, ESP home, all that stuff. Helps you bring cool new features, and we hope you like this release. Definitely make sure you like and subscribe right there. We're trying to get to 100K subscribers, so we get a nice like award from YouTube. So we need all of you to get there. Because I think we're only at 30,000 subscribers right now. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone.